interviewed literally hundreds of guests now at this point, but it's always a joy whenever I get to interview people that I actually know and I know well. And this is one of those guests. This is none other than Stephanie Brandolini, and she has such an incredible story, and she is simply a powerhouse herself. So, welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast, Stephanie. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Alethea. I'm honored to be here. And hello, everyone listening. Happy to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
Yes, indeed. We are happy. And look, before we dive into the actual interview, I always like to ask guests just a fun, lighthearted, random icebreaker question so that we can get to know you even better as a person. And so, Stephanie, this is your question for you. Stephanie, if you could go to any fantastical, dreamlike realm. It could be something that you create in your mind or a dream you've had. What would that experience be like?
Well, that's an amazing question and very, very much a question for me. So thank you for that. Okay, there's a lot, but the one that came to my mind right now is actually a world that I am writing right now.
Oh,
Um, it's not going to sound great to be in, but what's going to happen is what's why I'm excited about it. It's I'm writing about a dystopian world where the world has forgotten about God.
mm,
So I don't want to live in that world, but I want to live in the world that gets created through the main character's journey, which is a world of revival. My character, I called her Rama because Rama means the spoken word of God.
mhm.
And through her journey and finding her voice and discovering that this world has been taken over by the enemy in disguise, she becomes the light of this new world. And really, it's a journey of, discovering your gifts and really honing them and owning them, but also falling into that trust and security with your Heavenly Father, which is
Wow.
a very true journey for me. So bringing that light of heaven to an earth that needs it and being that light, but also getting to revel in the revival of a lit up world.
Mhm. Wow, that was the perfect question. And what's so amazing about it is I wasn't quite sure exactly what I was going to ask you. I had a few floating around in my head, but I went with that one. And the fact that you were just able to explain that so well was perfect, especially knowing that this wasn't scripted, this wasn't planned. You didn't have any heads up that I was going to ask you that, but yet it flowed and it fit perfectly with who you are and what you do and how you serve. And that leads me, Stephanie, to this next question. And you can answer it any kind of way that you choose to. But how would you respond to this? Who is Stephanie Brandolini?
Okay, that's a good one. And it's interesting because I have a feeling what we're probably going to talk about too. It's always been a stretch for me to talk about myself versus other things or my work, but who am I? That's a good question. Um, I'm a woman who has found joy in the darkest places and
Mm,
learned that, fear, darkness, anything that comes up against us is actually for us. I'm trying to answer it in a way that's not about other things, but who am I? I'm a child of God, and I'm
mm,
here to bring that joy that I've found in the love and relationship I have with Him
mhm.
through my gifts and through relationships and connections and, creating stories and books and films and all these kind of creative things that really express that to
Mm.
to the highest and greatest level that I can.
Thank
But short
you.
answer, I'm a child of God.
Yeah, exactly. And before we dive into the heart and the crux of this actual interview, just share with us, Stephanie, what it is you do professionally. How do you serve people through your career?
Yeah, so I'm a gifted storyteller. I'm an award-winning screenwriter. I'm an international best-selling author. And what I do is, I mean, I either write my own stories into screenplays, books, all those things, but I also help people unearth their own stories, whether it be
Mm,
their life story, a fragment of something they want to bring to life, a program that's based around something that they've been through. I really help people create story assets that
mm,
serve in the way that they're meant to really connect with their ideal audience, their clients, because I believe that, your story is a superpower. And our stories are like the bridges from our souls to the souls of our ideal clients and partners and the people that, we're ordained to work with in this lifetime.
mhm.
So helping people unearth their stories. That's part of what I do in my business, and I also weave in travel into that. I run a travel business as well that reweaves into this all, and it's not just about travel for me. It's about empowering people to go where they're called to go. Because if you have a calling on your life, you're not going to stay in one place, most likely.
Mhm.
As a speaker and an author and
Mhm.
a businesswoman yourself, you're going to get called to different places, and just
Yeah.
being able to do that in a way that's beneficial and economical and opens you up to a whole new way of transformational travel, I like to call it. Transformation's a big part of what I do. I help people transform through the power of story and through the power of travel.
I like that. I like that a lot, Stephanie, because the way that you help people transform opens them to such a world of so many more opportunities. And it begs the question, especially you being this phenomenal entrepreneur yourself, is did you always have that type of an um what's the word, entrepreneurial spirit in you? Or is this something over time that you think has evolved? And the reason I ask this is because sometimes people just know automatically, I want to go into business. They've known ever since they were kids. Is this something that has come naturally for you?
Well, it's interesting because as a kid, I mean, it makes sense. I don't think I was ever meant to, like, I mean, you're meant to work for someone else for a while, but
Yeah.
it makes sense why I've chosen the entrepreneur path. I really like to make my own schedule and freedom and such, but
Mhm.
it didn't come naturally. You know, I, uh, I was kind of thrust into entrepreneurship when I was laid off of a career that I had in visual effects production management for seven
Wow.
years. And it was scary at the time, but I'm grateful for it because, I mean, honestly, without that push, I was before this for several years being like, I do want to run a business. I want to do something with writing. I was afraid. I was afraid to take
Mhm.
that leap and like, let go of the job and like really go all in on the business. But what even is a business? How do you even do that? Like, but it was a forced thing in a way, but it was something that I'd actually been praying for a while. Like as grateful as I was and still am for my career in visual effects,
Mhm.
I knew that I wasn't ever going to live up to my full creative potential if I stayed there.
Mm.
And it was hard to leave because I had an amazing boss, amazing team. Like on paper, it was the ideal job, but in practice, I could feel this like stifling of spirit, I suppose. And that might sound
Mm.
bad, but I like again, I was grateful for it, but it was one of those things and it's I got what I prayed for, not in the way
Yeah.
that I thought, but in the way that I needed.
Yeah, exactly. And you brought up something very interesting here that I'm not even certain if you were fully aware of, but it hones in on this aspect of fear. And what want us to do first, Stephanie, is let's just go back some into learning more about you and this evolution of who you are now of sorts. Tell us a bit about your upbringing and your childhood, and also explain to us a way in which you had to learn within yourself how to rewrite fear and overcoming certain challenges or obstacles in your childhood that have influenced you being who you are today.
Yeah, another amazing question. Thank you for that
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let me see how far we're gonna go back here. I mean, as
Yeah.
long as I can remember, like I've always loved stories. Like I
Mhm.
remember my mom would like this is before I was even in school. I don't know how old I was, maybe four or something, before
Wow.
you kindergarten. She would find me reading and she's like, "How do you know what it says?" And I'm like, "I just know." Like
Mm.
and but somewhere along the way I lost that, belief in myself. Life happens, things happen, I mean, my parents divorced at a young age, well, around to that formative age of 11 or so, and I was the
Oh.
oldest, and I kind of, without really consciously being aware of it, I think unconsciously I had this feeling of, oh, I gotta be a certain way, or I have to take on some kind of responsibility. And growing up with a single mom was an interesting thing for it's an interesting thing for a woman, because I love my mom and she worked hard, but that's what I saw, and you have to work so hard to make everything work, and
Oh.
it's all on you. I didn't really see a dynamic of a marriage where it actually worked. And it's no offense to anyone. I love my dad too, but I didn't see that. So that got me to grow up in a way that I think I was very hyper independent, which
Mm.
served me for many years. Like I got very far, having a bit of this perfectionist attitude a little bit and
Hmm.
that kind of thing. But over the past few years, it's been very clear that that's not going to take me to the next level. I've
Wow.
really had to let go of these false mechanisms that I built around myself of like, I don't know if I can trust people, I got to do everything myself and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. To like, okay, we can discern who to trust. You can't just trust everyone or anyone. Through discernment, I've learned to trust the right people, like really attract the right people. Like this is where God comes in. I pray every day. I'm like, God, just bring me to where my gifts can both best be used
Yeah.
for kingdom. When you seek first the kingdom, it does all fall into place. But it took me a while to really see that, because I was fixated on building this life for myself. I think I got a false sense of pride around like, oh, I built this life all by myself. I don't need a man. I
Oh.
don't need anybody.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's part of why I got laid off and got to see like, okay, you're gonna see how people you can rely on other people. You got to ask them, and then I've had to learn how to, ask for help, ask for support and guidance, and it's not over by any means. I'm still on this journey, but I've really learned that you know, it's okay to trust people, the right people. And, if you
Mm.
go through life thinking everyone is going to let you down one day, I mean, that's what you're going to get. So, so
I
it,
I really I really am glad that you said that. And I think it's really important to understand is that what we put out, either consciously or subconsciously, or with our thoughts or with our words, are what we end up getting. I think that's a valid point.
yeah. And like, there was a lot around, just things felt like I wasn't in control of them. I think as a child, like this is me
Mm.
looking back, I didn't realize this, but I did develop a very serious eating disorder when I was around 13. And I didn't get
Interesting.
over it until I was around, I think 27. I say it was about 15 years I was stuck in that.
Wow. So let's take a quick pause here because here you are growing up all the way up until age 11. You have your traditional, what is considered nuclear family of your mom, dad, and I think that you shared with me before offline in the past that you also have a brother, correct?
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
younger brother.
Yeah. So that picture perfect Canadian family because you are from Canada, but
Yeah.
just that picture perfect family. But yet, when you turn 11, this life-changing experience happens. Now, leading up now to this, eating disorder, that is something major. Tell us a little bit about that, Stephanie, in terms of when did you first see that as being a condition, meaning that it just was more than you just not wanting to gain weight or looking a certain way, but that this was a deeper rooted issue. And where do you think that that stemmed from?
Yeah, well, another good question.
Mhm.
And I'm glad to talk about this because, I think this is a very particular disorder that not
Mm.
everyone gets unless you've been in it. Because it's like, why can't you just eat? It's like,
Yeah.
don't even get me started, But I think when I really realized it was an issue was when, I knew I didn't look good. I was too thin, but I couldn't not do like I had this sense of safety around eating less and weighing less, and and that took a long time to rewrite that. But that kind of false sense of, oh, if I'm like 5 pounds less than I should be, I'm safe because I won't get fat or
Right.
something. But realizing it was never really about the food, it was about, a false sense of control. And I think also too, over time, it became a way to sort of push people away. because it's kind of like me and my eating disorder against the world. Like I'm quite spiritual about these things, and while it is a thing of my in my own mind, I do believe that, eating disorders in general are a very particular and evil like tool of the enemy because you're literally taking what's supposed to nourish you and not, and it becomes this it becomes crazy. Like I was in a prison of my own mind and it was very weird now I look back at it, but
Yeah.
I also wouldn't change it because that's why I write about characters overcoming adversity within and without and like through breaking free, finding the power that was within them all along. I don't advocate for getting an eating disorder to figure it out, but but that's
Of
part of
course.
why it's like, what you think is going to break you or the thing you might be ashamed to talk about or whatever, it's actually something that needs to be talked about, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of like I think like the pandemic threw people into a lot of disordered eating, a lot of stress in the gut and such. It might not even be an eating disorder, but there's a lot of ill gut health in the world
Yeah.
that is very interesting and that's given me um of course I want to nourish myself and like and be good to myself and have this, holy temple that the spirit can work through. But
Hmm.
it's also like it's all working together, like your gut, brain, heart, your whole body working together. The gut is a
Hmm.
huge part of it. And I think because I've had the issues I've had in the past, I have a certain sense about it now, So but yeah, I kind of went into a long-winded answer on that. But I think to get back to your question, when I knew that I was not well, but I was
Hmm.
still doing the behaviors anyway. It was kind of scary. And it was like I was no longer I was never in control of it. It was in control of me. So
Hmm. So
yeah.
over those years, because 15 years, Stephanie, that's a long time. Over those years of the disorder happening and you knowing deep down inside, okay, something's not quite right, but yet the condition takes over so much
Mhm.
of you. Tell us about how you were interacting at that time with your loved ones, with your friends, and how did they attempt to intervene, or were you necessarily great at just masking it and people weren't truly aware?
Well, at first it was easy to mask it, but I mean, it became very obvious when I was like, I'm about 5'7". My lowest weight was 89 pounds.
Oh,
So it was kind of,
wow.
you can't really hide that.
Yeah.
Even though I remember I would like I had like child-sized jeans and I had like like pants underneath because I could, they wouldn't stay on me. Like
Wow.
it's crazy that you can't see it though. And it's not even about seeing it. For me, it was more of a feeling. Like I didn't really have body dysmorphia exactly. Like, I could see what I saw in the mirror. But for me, it was that feeling of control and being empty and all of that. But I did have people reach out, like my close friend group, like they sat me down in the counselor's office when I was
Hmm.
in and as much as I appreciated that, I also didn't because I didn't like being single. I don't like the spotlight on me, even though I'm all about light
Yeah.
now. Like I still don't really like. I mean, I just want to like write and have my private time a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But God has called me into the light, so I'm like, okay. But it was when people that I wasn't even really friends with did that. There was this group of girls, the popular girls that I thought didn't even know who I was. They sat me down and they're like, and I was like, huh. If other people that I don't
Mm.
even like, I'm not even friends with, are like reaching out in that way, that got me to do it.
That's powerful that people cared enough.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. That's something I'm grateful for too, because and at the time I couldn't really appreciate it because I was like, leave me alone with my disorder. you know?
Yeah.
But like God has always put people in my path to help me. I've always had this kind of divine protection that I didn't even realize. But really to get over it, I mean, I had to want it for myself. And no one
Hmm.
else could force me or tell me what to do or anything, especially me. I don't try to tell me what to do. But you need to be told what to do sometimes, and it's only through people that you can trust, really. But it was really to get over it. It's more
Hmm.
going through it. So
Mm.
it was because I wanted to be in relationship with people. Like it was after a while, I was like, okay, I don't want to be weird going out for dinner with people. And there was a
Hmm.
guy that I was dating, and I was like, I don't want to be weird when he asked me out for dinner. And that
Yeah.
sounds so simple, but it was a bunch of things that led up to that one thing of, and
Hmm.
it surprised me wanting to be in relationship with people because I've always been a bit of an introvert, but the eating disorder exacerbated that to the hyper degree of like, I don't want to be around anyone, which is not true.
Hmm.
We're humans. We need to be in community, right?
Hmm.
So Yeah. Yeah, it's that.
Wow. And what it begs the question for me is this, is knowing now with you being a published author, just not of books, but also screenplays and other works, when you were navigating this eating disorder and as it started to come to a close at that 15 years, what was your epiphany or that aha moment that made you realize enough is enough? I'm going to reclaim my life back and there's still more work for me to do. And how, Stephanie, does that tie in or connect with the work you're doing now, specifically with a idea or a plan or program of sorts that you have created and are still developing in a sense, but about rewriting Fear and Rise or Affer? How did that aha moment or epiphany help to transform you into that role that you do now with that?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that because
Hmm.
as much as it was and is like I want to be in relationship with people, I want to, and this is interesting because it's like before I really got into entrepreneurship, I
Hmm.
think it was laying the foundation for that to want to be in relationship with people because
That's a good
entrepreneurship is
point. Yeah.
relationship, right? But it's also that's interesting. I don't think I really thought of it this way until I'm saying it out loud right now, but I think I
Hmm.
knew, or my soul, or the cellular level of me always knew I had a big calling on my life. And you gotta
Mm.
be healthy to handle this calling, you know? It takes a lot of brain power and a lot of like, and I want to be strong. I mean, when I was really deep in the eating disorder, it was also kind of an exercise disorder too. Like I had to work out
Yeah.
or else, I don't know. But I've
How
kept
long a day would you work out?
it depends. Like if I'd eaten a lot the day before, I had to do. I remember I was in the gym for
Oh,
6 hours in a
yeah.
day.
Interesting.
Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
like kind of a weird structured way of
Hmm.
working it off or whatever.
Hmm.
But I'm glad I kept the fitness part of things because like I want to be strong, but you can't just work out. You got to fuel yourself
That's
properly.
true. Yeah.
Like being able to, and this weaves into the whole rewrite fear and rise because you have to fuel yourself with, food and exercise and water and all that and what you fuel your mind with too is essential. So it really got me to think about what am I feeding myself with, not just food wise but environment wise, and what am I telling myself. The stories in
Hmm.
your mind are the things that run your life really.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm wanting, and not just wanting to, but being called to speak on stage and called to, actually act out the dreams that have always been on my heart. When my prayers started coming true, it was like, okay, I need the stamina to keep this
Yeah.
going. And while we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, we have a human body. And that's, I think, something that maybe has frustrated me in the past. I mean, I know I'm human, but because I'm a fantasy writer and I have this strong spiritual connection, I think I've been like, oh man, I got to deal with this humanness. But, but
Hmm.
it's the beauty of life too. And, food is great. I'm part Italian. I actually love to eat food. So,
Hmm.
so bringing in the joy of like I get to nourish myself. That was a big turning point. Like I don't
Yeah.
have to, but I get to nourish myself, and I want slash need to be, as optimally healthy as I can to live out the calling that's on my life.
Hmm. And even saying those words in the affirmative, knowing that, okay, this is something that I'm going to overcome, or even declaring during your healing that, oh,
Mhm.
I get to do X, Y, and Z, it does change how you view it and the outlook of it. And so, when you went through this process of healing, Stephanie, and that was a long time, 15 years. I don't think I even realized it was that long. So I'm thankful you're here. I commend you. I applaud you because that is certainly a burden and a load to have to carry in such a trial. And I'm glad that you've overcome it. And your faith is so strong. And so once you've overcome that, here you are going about your business and your life. But then, Stephanie, all of a sudden you decide that you're going to be a writer, and just not a writer, but a published author who is going to take your ideas, put them into the written word for the masses. And you do it in such a creative way. Take us to when you became certain in yourself that you were an author. And tell us also, Stephanie, about what has been the best part of your journey in writing and serving others.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that. I know because there was a time. So after when I got over the eating, it wasn't really about the food anymore. I knew that. Um, I did start to see it's like, oh, there's these like fears and insecurities
Mm,
that the eating disorder was really masking.
hmm
I remember I said I wrote a lot about this actually around. It was kind of like an anorexia armor that it fell away, and now it's like, oh, what was that really hiding?
hmm
So all those kind of feelings of not feeling good enough and but knowing that you have this gift and power underneath the insecurities, that's a lot of why I write what I write. The first screenplay I ever wrote, it's a TV pilot that I'm determined to bring to the screen one day.
That's right.
Yeah, it's called Transcendent Shadows. And the title alone can kind of tell you a little bit about what goes on in your mind when you have this, I believe we're all light, but the
Yeah.
darkness, we got to dance with it. I call it the dichotomous dance of life. And
Mm,
it was in that screenplay that I wrote, that TV pilot, which is about this mystical warrioress who is in this world of light, which I've called Illyria. I love writing like fantastical words and getting to name them.
hmm
But her and her like warrioress team fight against the dark side, if you want to call them, which I called Tenebra, because
mm.
Tenebra is there's a root word of shadow in there. I do these kind of that's how I do.
Wow.
Um, but she in this world of light, anything dark is like forbidden and like, you're it's like a plague or a pox or you're cast out if you have any kind of darkness in you. And she has
Yes.
a dark side that she's kept caged in her mind to hide it from the world. So that was a bit of like the eating disorder, the in really what was under it, the insecurities I had about myself, and I didn't want anyone to see that.
Mm.
But when you do that, it's going to come out in
Yeah.
some way or other. So that story was really a manifestation of showing like what it's like to carry, I guess, shame and that dark side of yourself, but showing like it's going to come out and you got to work with it. You got to transcend your shadows by integrating that with it,
hmm
integrating with your shadow and seeing that there is, it's not anything to fear, but it's something to learn through. Like the only and this is the quote that I always quote from it. Only those who walked through darkness can wield the light. Because I think you
Mm.
gotta know what it's like to be in darkness if you're gonna fight it or if you're gonna overcome or be that light warrior, you know? So yeah, like I want to like I think the unconscious goal that I had to realize because when I pitch myself as a writer, they want to know like what is your story? Like why are you writing it? And I'm like,
hmm
why am I writing this? I don't even but it's really like to show people that within what you think might be your greatest weakness or something you're ashamed of or whatever it is, you hold a superpower and you've been through what you've been through for a reason. And yes, it's for you, but it's also for, those you're meant to serve if you choose the red pill,
Yeah.
and want to go on that journey because you don't have to. You don't have to choose to, go after your calling or honor your calling or answer it. You don't have to answer the call.
Uh-huh.
But if you
You
do,
don't, but there are going to be consequences if you don't.
yeah. And it's worth it, guys. If you're someone that's going after your calling right now and you're struggling, like that struggle is for you.
So,
So,
so it seems like then when you accepted the call to do what you're doing in your life, you had to release, almost in a sense, some type of a protective barrier that could
mm.
have been around you. In what ways did you do that, Stephanie?
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of like transformational healing work and been
Okay.
through programs and such. There was
Explain to
actually,
us exactly, because I don't want to assume things I know, but give us an example of what a transformational healing might be. Is it yoga? Is it meditation? Is it what exactly is it? tangibly.
Yeah, well, one of the programs I did was a Heartcore Leadership. It's HCL. So that's coming to mind because it was interesting because it was a mix of like practical leadership and also like that. I don't want to say it's spiritual, but like that meditative, like, going into a journey of, visualization and such
Mm.
we did actually do a visualization on that was taking off this armor. So that's why I brought it up because because it reminded me of that. But also, really getting in touch with my own intuition, hearing my own voice,
Mm.
like and I've learned from teachers and such like and reading books, but eventually like I think it's how it is for a lot of creative people. Like you learn and then you kind of make up your own program along the
Mhm.
way that is what you were meant to learn through and maybe help others with. God has definitely been a big thing in my life. And when I
Mhm.
say God, and I know people might think religion right away or something, I'm
Yeah.
like, and I'm not saying religion is bad, but for me, it's a relationship with God, which is very important to me because I didn't really have the best relationship with my earthly father, so I had a lot of blocks to God.
Mhm.
But weaving together, like, my gift of storytelling with, I do have a strong connection to God. Like, and people have told
Mhm. You
me
do.
surprised at how I hear him and take these big leaps of faith and it all works out. I have his favor for sure, but there's no but there. Um
Yes.
and like it all this everything I've learned is all woven together into this tapestry of like my own healing and transformation, and really it's just life. Really, I mean,
Mhm.
like this is why I know we all love story because story in general kind of mimics a human life. Like we have our act one where we're a
Yeah.
kid, a baby, and everything. Act two where life happens to you, or in this upside down world, and then Act three where we return and rise with the
Yeah.
elixir of what we've learned through, and then it keeps repeating.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's what I've learned. And story has been a great healing tool for me too. Like watching a movie from beginning to end and going on that journey with a character and reading novels and just really getting immersed. Like for me, there's nothing like reading a novel and you're in it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And with that being said, with you being in it and just you as an author and having the inspiration to write, what I've often seen are that people, especially the creatives, is that you all, including me, because I do creative writing, I just haven't published that yet. It's more so the nonfiction, but thinking about it from a creative way. Stephanie, what is the importance or the power in our stories? And I ask that because stories can come from everything, anywhere, any place, anything. What is the power of as a human race, the power of our story? And how has your own story, Stephanie, influenced the way that you are present for people in your lives, whether it's the people that you serve in terms of your clientele or your audience, or even people in your personal life? Take us to the power of stories.
okay, this is my favorite question. Yeah, I mean, they're all been
Oh,
really amazing questions, but um yeah, well, I always like to say this, like your story, like
mhm.
your personal, like I sometimes call your signature story. And like it can have multiple different actual stories, but that core message of your story,
Mhm.
that's what you really get at. And that, like that leads to the quote I love to say, which is your story is a page in someone else's survival guide. And
Wait a
whilst
minute. Say it again. Your story is a page in someone else's survival guide.
yeah,
Oh, I've
yeah, because
never
like
heard that. I like
oh,
that.
really? I don't even know where I got that. Maybe God
I've
gave that
never
to me.
heard, maybe I've never heard of it,
I
but I
thought I
like
heard it from
that.
someone else, but anyway, I'm not taking credit unless God's gonna give it to me, but
Yeah.
but that's
Go
something I
ahead.
really believe in because like,
Ooh,
stories of course entertain us, but there's also, I mean, there's stories that just entertain us and that's it, like popcorn movies you want to call, but even anything that you really are like going along the journey of with a character, it's a journey that will take you on a ride that you couldn't have gone on maybe on your own, but you can go
Mm.
on in a movie or a book or even an audio experience. And it really, the power of story, I mean, transformation weaves in perfectly for this because when it comes to story, there's no story really without a change in character. The whole
Hmm.
point of character to go from this way to a completely like the almost the opposite, which has happened for me in a lot of ways. Like I went from thinking I didn't even want to work with anyone or I wasn't good with people to like being this connector and like entrepreneur and everything and like, thinking I couldn't write to being a great writer. The opposite kind of happens. So there's a change and transformation and also it's something that you can't even really explain when you're reading a story you love or watching a movie or whatever it is, getting immersed in a story,
Hmm.
like you transcend this reality. I
Mm.
never said it like that before, but you do. You transcend this reality and go into this imaginary world with a character or with it. And for me, and it always extrapolates from there into different stories or different things, and it empowers me. I think stories really have the power to empower people
Yeah.
to, become that warrior or come back, with the force or use the force. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I tend to you say that a lot. But or find and of course I'm quite geared towards like fantasy and sci-fi writing. So for me, it's about finding that power within you that a story can really like unravel as it's like I'm seeing it right now as a spiral, like you're on a journey of this story, like spiraling through the journey, but you're
Hmm.
also going deeper into yourself and being like, oh, I have that power too. Maybe not the same way, but like when you see Wonder Woman fly after she, had to give up something, that sacrifice for a greater power or a sacrifice for the greater good or whatever it is, it's like it empowers you to see that you have that power too in your own unique way.
Mm. Wow. And how has that power that you have through the use of your stories, how has that been used for the greater good in the lives and the audiences that you touch and reach?
Yeah, well, inspiration is one of the number one feedbacks. I don't know if that were feedbacks. One of the number one feedback
That's
I
okay.
get.
Yeah.
And just this sense of fearlessness. Like we have a mutual friend who I'm gonna have a meeting with after this actually, and he was like,
Mhm.
"You're just fearless, aren't you?" I'm like, I guess I am actually. Not I guess. I am. That doesn't
That's
mean
right.
at your door, right? So, and also now with helping people unearth their own stories, like have people come to me who are like, I have all this in me. I don't know how to get it out. I'm like,
Hmm.
I've been there. Let's get it out.
Hmm.
'Cause there-
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's another quote that I'll say. I know this one is from Maya Angelou,
Mhm.
is there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you.
Oh, girl, yes, that is the truth. And it proves also, Stephanie, that there is a wealth of experience inside of everybody, and sometimes people negate their own experiences thinking that they aren't worthy or valued or valid. And that is
Yeah.
so not true.
Yeah, I know. I had that too. It's like, who's going to want to hear from me? This weirdo who's, because I am a
Mm.
weirdo, guys. I'm just going to say that out loud, but I'm a wonderful weirdo who
That's right.
has a
You're
lot to
you,
give.
girl. You be you. Yeah.
Yeah, and then along the way of storytelling too, like something unexpected came out of me, which is you kind of alluded to it, this rewrite, fear, and rise.
Hmm.
An experience that really came through me that I'm still developing into something that I think could be a program to help people overcome, not just overcome, but rewrite the fear
Hmm.
that comes up. Because, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners will probably know this, but if you don't, guys, when you go after that calling, you're going to have fear and all these things come up against you that it might seem like you're even going the wrong way sometimes, but you can rewrite any fear or resistance or block into the way forward by
Hmm.
using fear as fuel and almost as a friend in a way. Like it doesn't have to be like something to run from. It's something to actually embrace and see that underneath is a true version of you that was just masked in fear that might be years old that you didn't even realize.
Hmm.
So that's been a through line with my characters and
Hmm.
in other like nonfiction books I write. But with this
Hmm.
program, like it's literally taking people on like it's a spiritual visual journey. It's a storytelling journey too, but into what I call their cellular self. And like whatever it
Ooh.
might seem like a little block, like I don't know. I remember I was doing it on myself and I had something come up about something being irritating. I forget what it was, but underneath that there was all this complex thing of like, oh, that's what that really was, you know?
Mhm.
And if you'd be surprised what is under what you think might be a little thing, and it's actually a big linchpin that just a little shift will shift everything. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
you're going to be in complete alignment forever. There's always going to be something probably, but those little things or the big things, whatever that come up along that journey that seem to block your way,
Mhm.
the block
Mhm.
is the way, you know?
And what inspires me, Stephanie, about your story, as well as all of the other work that you're doing, is when you take the eating disorder, for example, and of course, you've experienced other challenges in life that we aren't going to talk about here. But if you take those areas that a person could consider a quote unquote pain point, they'll
Mhm.
actually find that through their experience is that that very thing that others or even themselves thought could actually break you can be that very catalyst to really transform you into who you are and to get you even closer to fulfilling your purpose in life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually co-wrote a song. I was listening to it before I came on because it
Mm,
empowers. It's called Born to Rise, and one of the lyrics
mm,
in that is, "What I thought would break me, you used to build me." I'm talking to God in this,
wow. Oh
you know?
my. Wow.
And it hurts. I get it does hurt. There is pain, but after a while you just be like, "Oh, this is just another thing I thought would break me." It becomes almost natural to see these things that come up as something to greet and embrace, like I said, rather than run from. Like that's what I've been praying on to lately, because I know that there's more
Mhm.
challenges along the way for me. Because there's another level, there's going to be more challenges, but it's like almost welcoming the challenge and not like attracting more, but
Yeah.
they're gonna come, right? So welcoming them as, something to gain more wisdom from rather than, oh my God, I got to deal with this challenge, you know?
Hmm. And hearing this from you as an author makes you even more relatable. It will incline people to even want to read more of your work and to discover even more about you. And so, as we start to come to a close here, um, Stephanie, what do you say to the person who may be crippled in a sense by fear, want to turn that around so that they are living in a new normal and a thriving life? But without giving away all of your trade secrets, what is the first step that you would tell that person about pretty much getting out of their own way when it comes to this concept of fear paralyzing them from truly sharing their stories?
Yeah, well, the first step really, I mean, is to really be aware of it. I mean, that's the first
Hmm.
step. And I always congratulate for people for even knowing that, because some people are walking around not even knowing. So, so
That's
that really
true.
is, yeah, that really is the first step. There's also a sense of this kind of goes with it, but surrender, like it's like
Mm,
I can't hold this anymore. I'm not like, and it's not a weakness because I used to think I had to hold everything and do everything, but
wow.
surrender with a sense of awareness and also acceptance. You got to accept that it's there, because if you're resisting it or fighting it, it'll fight back. So that's kind of three answers in one, but sort of the
That's
surrendering
okay.
awareness and then accepting it and accepting it with love. And I mean, it might sound cheesy, but love is the greatest power there is. Like I
Mm,
truly believe that. And when you really love yourself, you can give more and be more because you're running on a fuel that is eternal and endless, because when the love I'm talking about is like loving yourself the way God loves you, so
yeah.
then you can love your neighbor the way you love yourself. um but yeah, I would say that that's the first step. And just because we're already talking about it, I mean, I'm not giving away the whole thing here, but that's what a fur is really about. It starts with A for accepting it, F for facing it, E for embracing it, and then R with rising with the
Wow.
truth of what's really in there. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Stephanie, if a person wants to connect more with you or learn more about you and your offerings, or they want to read what you've written, or even if they want to learn more about travel, how can a person connect with you outside of our show?
Yeah, so I mean I have my own website. It's www.stephaniebrandolini.com. I am on the socials as well. Facebook or Instagram is usually the easiest one. Steph Brandolini is my Instagram and Stephanie Brandolini on Facebook. I am on TikTok as well, so you can find me there. I'm Scripty Steph on there. Um, but yeah, and you never know. And I'm traveling around quite a lot. So
Yes.
if you're in New York or if you're in Vegas, I will be in Vegas and LA soon. So
Wow.
that's find me. But yeah, and I'm grateful to connect with people too. Like if anything's resonated, I'd be happy to talk to anyone that this is resonating with. And if you feel called to reach out, there's a reason for it. So.
Yes, indeed. That is so true. And as we start to draw to a close, Stephanie, in thinking about your life up to this point, up until now, take us to a moment in which you truly realize, wow, I have rewritten fear and I truly have rised to the point where I just did not think was imaginable. Take us to a moment in your life where that happened and how, Stephanie, will you choose to continue showing up in the world to empower people to do the same?
Yeah, that's interesting because I have a lot now. I'm like, which one do I choose? Because there's been a lot of big leaps of faith lately. But I feel called to share this one that I when I actually went to speak on stage about a fur. This was a couple months ago. Went to Philadelphia. I got to speak on the Benjamin Franklin yacht, and
Ah,
yeah, it was one of those things where I was in an interesting transition and, financially it didn't really make sense for me to go, but it was all these little signs and this when I prayed, God told me to go. So I
hmm.
did. And I was talking to a friend who I ended up staying with. She's like, "You know what? If you're meant to go, God will fund it." And he
That's
did.
right. Hmm.
But I had to book the things before I had the money, and see how it all came about. But on that trip, I got to speak and I got to be connected with a lot of people and really enjoy this Philadelphia, which is such a state of freedom. I was literally walking up and down streets in Philadelphia, listening to Philadelphia Freedom by Elton John. And I was just that trip really sparked a lot of what I'm doing now with, I recently I left Canada behind a little bit to be a digital nomad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's scary, but also that trip to Philly seeded it because I was like, I don't even know if I want to go back. I just want to keep traveling around and meeting people, speaking and writing, and then I did because I had the faith that it would all work out. And this is something a friend of mine told me, a friend and coach of mine told me. She's like, even if what you do is wrong, what you like, if you take it in faith, you'll be rewarded. And that kind of
Hmm.
took the pressure off of being like, oh, I have to get everything right. Because I mean, sometimes it's like, I mean, of course, right and wrong. We know like the
Yeah.
moral right and wrong, but like when you walk in faith, and it's not just faith, but that knowing that like everything is figure outable, everything will all work.
Hmm.
It does, and it's better than you can imagine. So that was kind of a couple answers in one again,
That's
but I
true, though. No, I get it. And I think that a good point to kind of land on is everything does work itself out.
yeah.
Everything is figure outable. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that trip too, like I went on one trip after the other, which kept evolving this like leaving becoming a digital nomad and all that, but it also brought me into this amazing project that I'm working on creatively that is a big mission for God and my writing and everything just like now I'm looking back at it too, it's kind of almost like it was the seed happened in Philly, then it started to sprout when I went on another trip, every trip I went on more of me and what God was working
Mm,
through me bloomed. So that's why I'm such an advocate for travel because
mm.
when you travel, you'll meet people and have experiences and do things that you never would have done had you stayed at home in your comfort zone.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.